Okay. Well, hello and welcome everybody to our National Child Day and CAPC 30th anniversary celebration. My name is Sydney Bell. I'm with the Ontario Network of CAPC and CPNP projects, and really delighted to be here. Our network, along with the Ontario Regional Office, the PHAC Ontario Regional Office, are working together to bring this event to you. And we're very excited about our program today. And as we get started, I would like to just take a moment for us to pause and together acknowledge that the work we do in communities across Ontario is on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people from the beginning. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and play in these places. And we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. For those of us who are here as settlers, we acknowledge this recognition of the contributions and historic importance of Indigenous peoples must also be clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities. And for us in particular, it is important to ensure equitable access to care and services to Indigenous children and their families in our province. And with that, I would just like to begin with a few housekeeping items, and then we will have our guests coming on. We are having a special presentation today with Nicole Tuzi, who is here, around infant mental health. She's with the Toronto Hospital for Sick Children and Infant and Early Mental Health Promotion. Really excited for that. And then after Nicole's presentation, we will have a project showcase panel. We have folks from all over Ontario, each of the 5 zones, who are going to be telling us a little bit about their projects. Finally, I want to introduce, I'll be sharing the link in the chat, but we have an information board for our event today, and I'm going to share my screen briefly just to show it to you. And on that board, you have information about our guests, and you know, about what we are here today. But the big thing we want to show is our baby photo contest. We're really excited about this. So grateful for the folks who shared their baby pictures. You might notice we have thrown in a couple of celebrities in there to round out the numbers. And once I put the link in the chat, I invite you during our time together today to go and check out this board, and you can see we have on the bottom the pictures, the current photos of the people who are participating with their names. And then on the top, you see some baby young child photos with numbers beside them on the left. So, you know, take a look and see if you can figure out who is who, and make some notes. And then at the end of our session today, we will circle back and see how well we did in terms of picking out these baby photos. So once I've handed things over to Blanca, I will put the link in the chat for that page. And I think I am handing things over to you now, Blanca. Let me just, was that everything? I think that was everything I was going to say. So I'm going to hand it over to you for a bit.
Thank you so much, Sydney. And thanks everyone for joining us. Welcome. We are, as Sydney said, celebrating our 2023 National Child Day event, and also celebrating CAPC's 30th anniversary and all the great work last 30 years. My name is Blanca Serrano, and I work with the Ontario Regional Office, CPNP, and I am always feeling so lucky that we're able to do this celebration every year. I, I wanted to say just a little bit of history.
Blanca, I don't
Oh,
know if other people, you're a little muted to me. Then
really?
Here.
well,
Yeah.
that's a little better.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I also have this
yeah,
frog in my throat today. So is this better?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay.
Thank you, Blanca.
Maybe I just need to bring my computer closer. Okay, so National Child Day is celebrated on November 20th. It's a special day that recognizes Canada's commitment to upholding the rights of children and two historic events. The 1959 signing of the UN Declaration of the Rights of the Child and the adoption of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1989. Our programs, CAPC, CPNP, are directly linked to this as they are part of Canada's commitment and response to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. For the last 30 years, Canada has celebrated National Child Day. In Ontario, our regional office began to hold celebrations in 2007, where we invited local CAPC CPNP projects and stakeholders to profile their work. And our aim was to really raise awareness about the important issues that children and families face in Canada, and also to recognize and highlight the important work that CAPC CPNP does in their communities and how vital it is for families. In 2020, the Ontario Regional Office Healthy Child Development Team and the Ontario Network began to collaborate to host this event jointly and to bring together everyone from across the province, but also nationally for this celebration. And it's been really great the last 3 years to be able to have this forum and, include everyone. Because when we did it at the regional office, it was very much local. We didn't have a way to bring everybody together. So it's been really great. And this year, of course, is extra special because we are also celebrating and recognizing the work of CAPC for the last 30 years. So it's an extra special year for this anniversary. And I think I just always say this, I think, but I see a National Child Day for me is a celebration of our most precious treasure, which is our children, and also a time where we can reflect and profile the great work of our projects, our partners and stakeholders in their communities. But it's also a call to action because we know that there's so much more that we need to be doing for our families. And, we need more resources and just, more of all the initiatives that are important to children and families in Canada. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time today to join us. And we hope that you enjoy the event and learning from 5 of our projects, CAPC projects across Ontario, who will be sharing about their work. So that's a great way to celebrate CAPC by directly hearing from our projects. So thank you. And are we ready to introduce Ilana, or was there something?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so our first speaker today will be providing opening remarks, and I'm really happy that Ilana was able to join us. So thank you, Ilana, and I just wanted to do a brief intro. So Ilana completed her master's in public policy and governance at the University of Toronto, which she pursued after receiving her degree, her Bachelor's of Commerce in Economics, Statistics, Finance, and International Business from McGill University, and working in the financial industry in both Canada and Europe for 6 years. Her transition from the private to public sector was driven by her passion to contribute to a better Canada and to move beyond the profit motive to focus on achieving innovative social and economic objectives. Ilana started her public service work with the Department of Indigenous Services Canada in both the National Capital and Ontario region, centered on the delivery of programs and policy analysis for First Nation communities and organizations. During the COVID pandemic, she was acting as the senior manager for PHAC's designated quarantine facilities in Ontario. And in her substantive position as senior manager for public health programs with PHAC, She manages a team of program consultants and administrative staff in the area of grants and contributions. Her work is focused on promoting innovation and work that addresses social, environmental, health, and economic challenges in Canada through collaboration with partners and stakeholders. This important work includes supporting the CAPC and CPNP programs and their far-reaching and meaningful outcomes. Please join me in welcoming Ilana.
Blanca, that just built my confidence for the year. Now I understand why it should have been short. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me at today's celebration. And thank you to the great team that organized this call and continues to do so year after year. And as Blanca mentioned, found very innovative pandemic solution that actually allowed more of us to come together for this celebration. These type of events are a highlight of my job as I get to see and hear from the organizations who work directly in community with families. And we get to acknowledge all of your outcomes and best practices. As Blanca mentioned, National Child Day is a meaningful day in all of our work. On November 20th, 1991, like Blanca mentioned, Canada signed on to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, making a commitment to provide children with opportunities to be heard, to protect children from harm, and ensure that their basic needs are met. As part of this commitment, Canada launched our programs. I say our programs because I know how invested everyone on this call is. The Community Action Program for Children in 1993 and the Canada Prenatal Nutrition Program in 1995. As Blanca also mentioned, this year we celebrate 30 years of CAPC. So it is an exciting year for all of you on the call and also for our team here at PHAC. And I think we mentioned at the beginning, we do have team members from both our Ontario regional office and a few from Ottawa in our program center. So very grateful everyone can be here to hear about the great work that you all do. I want to say congratulations on the excellent work you continue to do. I also want to acknowledge some best practices from this last year and share some project stories with all of you. So in the past year, we've seen projects continue to implement pandemic-related adaptations that have been valuable for program participants. We've seen great examples of online and hybrid programming, home visits, and drop-offs of program supplies to participants' houses. These could include cooking supplies for cooking programs and other things. We've also seen a continuation of providing safe transportation within this context. We've also seen a number of projects incorporate staff with lived experience into their programs, enabling providers to build strong and trusting relationships with families and provide program participants with an understanding of their unique needs and challenges. We've seen projects create valuable partnerships with very diverse local organizations, establishing collaborative models of professional teams with various organizations and areas of expertise who work together on participant referrals, resource sharing, co-programming, and in the end, having greater outreach and integrated services. We've seen many projects incorporate multiple language supports into their programming, develop programs that support young mothers in finishing their high school degrees, and also host events to hold space for families who have experienced pregnancy loss. Many outstanding achievements supporting children that deserve to be acknowledged on National Child Day this week. So congratulations to everyone. Just a big clap. If we were together in a room, we'd all stand up and clap. Blanca, if I have a few more minutes, I can provide a quick update on the CAPC CPNP renewal email process. Tell me, how am I doing on time?
I think you're good.
Okay, great. I know this has been, a challenging 6 months with information coming out over periods of time and everybody quite anxious and waiting to hear, what will happen with this very important program space. So everyone should have received an email from me, ilana.pal, last week. If you haven't, please reach out to your program consultant. The email would have provided a summary report, so an attachment of our recent engagements on the program renewal called What We Heard, as well as updated information on next steps for renewing these valued programs. A reminder, between May and July of this past year, PHAC held 24 engagement sessions, 5 of which were with all of you here in Ontario. We reached over 600 representatives, and we also received close to 200 online forms and other feedback and questions that all of your organizations submitted to their program consultants over the spring and summer. So the report that was shared with you last week provides a summary of this. It's of what we heard during these engagements. And firstly, we want to thank you for your valuable input. It did not go unheard. The email also provided some updates on our renewal approach that were adjusted, amended based on those engagement sessions. So I'll go through those quickly and then I will pass the torch here. So what's continuing from the proposed approach is that the CAPC CPNP programs will still merge into a single program with 2 streams, the prenatal and postnatal health education and support, and the parenting and child education and support. We'll continue to refresh our program objectives and focus on public health promotion, and PHAC will continue to work to alleviate administrative requirements by strengthening and streamlining aspects of our monitoring and reporting. Now, things we have amended based on what we heard include keeping the eligible age range to prenatal to age 6. In cases where there's a demonstrated need by a project, activities that are focused on early learning will be eligible to continue, providing that the overall project is centered on the renewed health promotion direction. And projects, we focused a lot on collaborative partnerships, but we've heard from people, and it's a suggestion. We will support projects that want to form collaborative partnerships. However, it will not be a requirement. Also, very big change will be that the application process will be non-competitive, and it'll be open only to existing CAPC and CPNP funding recipients. And finally, I know this was very relevant for us here in Ontario and those leading the call today, non-service delivery projects will be able to apply. So some good, feedback that was heard, received, and acted on. In terms of timing, in the fall of 2024, PHAC will invite all existing CAPC CPNP funding recipients who are in good standing to submit those proposals, and that new funding will be from April 1st, 2026 until March 31st, 2030. We'll be sending more information on that application process, but in the meantime, we are moving forward to extend existing agreements. Information will come out this week on next steps to do that, because in Ontario, we're part of the first group. So I've probably taken up more time. I thought we've been waiting to share information, so I'll repeat over and over again, the new news. But I'd like to just end on, again, a big congratulations on all of your work, and thank you to the people, to Blanca and our team members and Sydney, who organized this event and come and speak, because it really allows us to stop and acknowledge and take account for the stuff we can get busy, doing busy work every day. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ilana. That's really appreciated. I know many projects were waiting for that information, and it's great to have this, summary from you and your opening remarks. Thank you so much for joining us. So I think now I'm going to pass it over to Sydney.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Helena. And we also have bringing remarks from our Ontario network of CAPC and CPNP projects. I'm happy to introduce Debbie Engel. She's the Director of Programs and Services with Camino Wellbeing and Mental Health. And Debbie is a daughter, a mother, a sister, a partner, and a leader committed to upstream community-based services that support the well-being and mental health of people. Debbie has 30 plus years of working in the mental health sector using a community development asset-based approach. She has degrees in child and youth counseling, as well as education and leadership. She is an active member of various community-wide initiatives such as Immigration Partnership, Child and Youth Planning Table, Wellbeing Waterloo Region, and Youth Engagement. She has also been supporting the work of CAPC and CPNP projects for over 10 years and continues to be passionate about the work being done to support families across our country. So welcome, Debbie.
Thanks, Sydney. So I feel privileged to bring greetings on behalf of Camino Wellbeing and Mental Health and the sponsoring agency for the network. But I do feel like I really need to give all the credit to Sydney, who mobilizes these activities, and Public Health Agency of Canada for making the time to recognize the National Child Day. So November 20th is a day to recognize Canada's renewed commitment to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Children. Child and youth human rights to be protected from harm, to be given equal and full opportunities to develop and to thrive, and to have a voice in matters that affect them is critical. For over 30 years, CAPC and CPNP programs have worked to ensure child and youth and families to have low barrier access to services and supports as a basic right. The grassroots asset-based approach that many people take here provide services that are tailored to the needs of people in their communities. And that's one of the unique things about the CAPC CPNP programs, is that we have a common scope of work, but we really uniquely, it could look different wherever you go across Ontario and across the country. And I've really had the privilege of hearing that, being part of the network. The programs pride themselves on leveraging the values and reaching those people who otherwise get lost in our bigger systems. And I want to thank all the CAPC CPNP projects who provide instrumental work and build those trusting relationships with people who often don't have the trusting relationships to ensure their voices matter. And the example of all of the advocacy that happened in the past 6 months around the changes to CAPC CPNP is about the dedication and the commitment and passion to the work that all of you have. And so I just want to take this time to thank all of you, to recognize the amazing work that's happened over 30 years, and to share my gratitude that I get to be a part of this, but also to help continue to move this work forward. So I hope you enjoy your day and continue to do the amazing work that you do.
Thanks so much, Debbie, for being here and bringing us those greetings from the network and from Camino. So now we are going to move into our guest speaker, right? Blanca, I'm passing things over to you to bring us Nicole forward.
Yes. Thank you, Debbie, for those beautiful words. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Nicole Tuzi on such an important topic. And we're very glad that you could join us. I'm just going to say a brief intro. Nicole Tuzi. I could say so many personal great things about Nicole, but I'm just going to stick to this bio. So Nicole has a master's in education, is the senior training and education manager at Infant and Early Mental Health Promotion, a program at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto. In her current role, she collaborates with a variety of professions across multiple sectors to better support practitioners who are working with infants, young children, and their families. Nicole has worked extensively with children from birth to 6 years old and their families within the early learning and care, child protection, and children's mental health sectors, with a focus on nurturing positive and responsive relationships between caregivers and young children. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Blanca. I could also say wonderful things. It's such a pleasure to be here. And as I tinker with some technology to share my screen, just want to acknowledge again, you know, as you all have been, oh, sorry. I can't do two things at once, apparently. Try this again.
No worries. And Nicole, while you're doing that, I'll ask you a question.
Oh, sure.
Well, how would you like to handle if people do have questions, like, right, just put them in the chat and
just fire away. Put up your hand, and I'm always happy to answer a question in the moment.
Okay.
So, you know, if it's top of mind, feel free to put I think we can raise our hands on here. That's usually how it'll signify. But if something pops into the chat, Sydney, feel free to stop me.
Okay,
and
I will do
I
that.
can answer absolutely. So as I was saying, we have our own land acknowledgement, and we want to acknowledge the land that we certainly work and live and play on. Or for hospital sick children, it's the territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Petun First Nation, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Our territory has been occupied for the last 15,000 years and was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which I've actually just recently learned was this concept of having one spoon that could share amongst several others. And there's a deeper story to that, which is quite interesting. But it is an agreement between Iroquois Confederacy, the Ojibwe, and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. And we certainly extend that to where you are living and playing as well. And I think what I always try to preface before we dive into the good stuff is really around how exciting this time is when you're working with young children. I think when we think about mental health and we think about, behaviors that manifest into things further down the line, we tend to look at this in, I don't want to say it's a negative lens, but something, that's more concerning or a bit more doom and gloom. And I think that this is the kind of conversation, particularly on the heels of National Child Day, where we're actually celebrating all the things that we can do to support positive mental health in young children, and the role that we can play in being someone who can impact in a really positive way as well, and how we're supporting families. So certainly commending everyone on their work when you're working with families, whether they come with challenges or not, recognizing the important role that you play in being brain architects. Have you ever considered that in your work? Is that something that you tell yourself that you are, right? Outside of being a practitioner, do you also tell yourself that you're a bit of a brain architect as well, and that you're supporting those really impressionable brains? As we kind of go through some of this presentation, some things might be new, some things might be validating. And I certainly encourage people to reflect on some of the things that we're talking about. We do have some reflective questions here, and I encourage you to take note of some of the questions you feel might impact you in your practice as you think about how you engage with the families that you work with, even your colleagues or even your own biases, because we all have them, and we'll talk about that in a bit. I think we have, is it about 40 or so minutes, Sydney? So I will try to get through things.
Sorry,
yes,
I am here. I was just racing my mouse. Aiming for around a little bit after 2 is fine.
A little bit after 2.
Yeah.
Okay. I will do my darndest to stay on track. But for those of you who may not have heard of us, we are Infant and Early Mental Health Promotion. I'm actually accompanied by my colleague Leslie Watts, who has been in the CAPC CPNP world for quite some time. So she may be a familiar name to you. And Leslie, you jump in whenever you feel you have something to add. So you might hear from Leslie as well. But our aim is really focusing on improving outcomes across the lifespan. But we start and we have this focus on the 0 to 6 population, and we're really thinking about healthy minds from the very beginning. And oftentimes when we're working with anyone, we're really trying to carve out a space for infant and early mental health, because we do need a unique approach for this age group. Because they have different needs and they express their needs in different ways. And so what we really have to concentrate on is, what is infant and early mental health? And when we really get down to the basics of it, there's these 3 major components that we're looking at. One is a child's ability to form close and secure familial or peer relationships. Relationships are foundational. And also experience and manage and express a full range of emotions. I often ask, what does good mental health look like? And I did this as part of my my hiring interviews, and I would ask this question, and some people would say, oh, it's when children are really happy. But that's just one emotion. We actually want children to be able to experience a range of emotions, be happy, be sad, be mad, be frustrated, be ecstatic, but always come back to kind of levelness. And that's what we want to see all children be able to do, have those emotions, whatever they may be, but then be able to find a way to come back to kind of level and evenness.
And then lastly, when you're able to have relationships and you're able to kind of manage your emotions, you're in a position where you can actually explore the world and take in all that's around you and actually learn and develop. Certainly in some of my practice where I've seen some children who are so hyper-focused on getting certain needs met that they don't give themselves a chance to learn. And that sets them behind, when they're jumping into school and other experiences. And we want to make sure that children have their needs met so that they can learn and grow, so that these little ones that we're working with now, when they become older children and teenagers and adults, they're fully functioning members of society. So these things are foundational to achieve that in years to come. So what makes working with this age group challenging, right? Why do they need this special attention? Because infants, when we look at this age group, they don't talk, or they at least don't tell us things in the way that we as adults understand them, using words and are being able to articulate themselves. And we often have to guess in terms of how do we approach them and how do we might try several things in order to understand them. And so it's when we hear that distressing cry, and we're trying many, many things to figure out what's going on, that can make it challenging, right? Because we don't necessarily always know what to do right out of the gate. That some of their cues can often be incredibly subtle. We may not pick up on what's going on until it turns into something later down the road. When you see a child, we're looking at that child sometimes in isolation, and we're not taking into consideration all the things that have contributed to how that child reacts or behaves, when given a certain situation. So we do need to take a moment and pause and think about, where's this child coming from and what might be causing that behavior? We might have to think about all of the other things that contribute, not just to the child, but to the people who are working with the child as well. So we want to consider family history, pregnancy, birth, any other stressors that might be happening in the home. I'm seeing some, just looking at the chat.
Oh, yes, that's just me.
Not for me. And lastly, differentiating between developmentally appropriate behaviors and those that are concerning. So we actually have to have a baseline understanding of what is typical behavior, what is normal and we expect from this age group, but also what's not expected or what's more concerning, right? So I often use the example of toddlers biting. Toddlers biting is a perfectly normal, typical behavior, but we have to look at the frequency and the intensity of that behavior to determine whether or not it's typical or atypical, right? Going in for a nibble, sometimes kids experiment, like, I wonder what happens when I put my finger in that kid's mouth. And then there's a little bite, and it's different when you've got a kid coming from one side of the room to the other to say, you're my next snack. And how often is that happening, right? So things just aren't as clear-cut as we'd like them to be. So what does that mean for us as practitioners who are working with this population? Just by virtue of their age and their dependence on us for all these things, they are vulnerable. And so we have to pay particular attention to those needs because children can't meet them themselves. They rely on us for that. And they are at high risk for a lifetime of poor outcomes if their needs aren't being met and we don't have adults who are in place who are attuned to children and working towards those needs. And what they really need from us is to be a champion. And sometimes that can be a challenging part of our role. We are programming and we're trying to find supports and get referrals and do all types of programming. But sometimes those children just need us to say, hey, this is what this little one needs. We're trying to interpret what they're saying and what their needs are and relay them to the other adults or other caregivers in their lives. And sometimes that, we call that sometimes a sensitive conversation with caregivers when the attunement is perhaps not there. So throughout this presentation, we're really hoping that you see yourself as a leader in the promotion of infant and early mental health. You're working with this young age group, you're working with their families, and you have a unique opportunity to be thinking about how you're going to relay the importance of this information, the importance of child development or the pieces of child development specifically, as well as brain development around how to support those needs, how to connect to services if that's what's needed, really thinking of a holistic approach to supporting families. And know that while some of your efforts may be seemingly simple or small, they have incredible impact, and you need to know that the work that you're doing now makes an incredible difference in years to come. I often think about, when I've worked with a few other practitioners and, my caseload, I have 10 kids, I have this or that going on. And when I think about how our Indigenous partners look at epigenetics, which is really about how those experiences follow generations. And with our Indigenous populations, it's called blood memory. And I actually prefer to talk about it that way. It makes more sense to me in that way. But know that when you're helping a child and a family, you're actually helping generations to come. And that can be overwhelming at times, but also recognize how profound the work that you do is, not just for this child and family, but for the generations that come after them. So a brief, quick overview over some of the concepts of child development that lead to how we look at infant and early mental health, recognizing that development is scaffolded piece upon piece upon piece, that it's really challenging to have an area of development that's happening at this stage of life. If that's not strong, we think of the foundations of a house. If we don't have that strong foundation, everything that comes after it might be a little bit shaky. So this is why the work that we do in these early years becomes so incredibly critical. Recognizing that we need to take a holistic approach. It's very easy for us to silo areas of development, and in many cases we do. That's how we break up certain tools or developmental screening tools. They're based out in these little chunks of communication or gross motor and fine motor. And we do that to take a closer look. But at the end of the day, we have to look at all the things that support a child's development and all the things that inform us about a child's development. We have to look at the whole picture, not just pieces. I certainly recall early in my career where I would think about, why did I get into this world? Certainly not for the pay, but certainly thinking about, I wanted to work with children, and very quickly realized you don't just ever work with children, you work with their caregiving units, and you have to make space for that in your practice and really consider that this child does not grow up in isolation, that they are absolutely surrounded by people who influence their behavior. And so recognizing that you have to make relationships with those people as well, and take that into consideration every time you're trying to support a child's development and work with that parent or caregiver unit. Remembering that all development is interconnected. It's not like, oh, we're going to work on this first, and then we're going to work on this, and then we're going to work on this. You kind of have to work on all things simultaneously. And there are various stages of when something is a critical or sensitive period. But at the end of the day, it's all of these pieces combined that support all areas of development, not just mental health, but that we can actually look at the child in that holistic manner and recognizing that things are happening at the same time. This is something we deal with at the hospital. Certainly when you have children who are coming in, to the ER, for example, we're looking at the acute need, right? They've broken an arm, or there's a heart murmur or something to that effect, or they're receiving therapy for something physical. And we're so fixated on that particular piece that we're forgetting about the mental health as well. What's happening from a social emotional standpoint for that little one too, and how can we be supporting that while we're dealing with these more acute physical needs too. And this one rings true for everyone working everywhere with children, is that it's never too early to pay attention to infant and early mental health. Oftentimes we hear the idea of that mental health doesn't exist for young ones, or that they don't remember. But that's just simply not true. These experiences are wired into the brain. And just because a child can't tell you, oh, this happened at this time and this is why this is going on, doesn't mean that their brain is firing off signals to say, oh, we recognize this experience and it's been strengthened in our brain. And so we're going to develop reactions and patterns of reactions to that particular stimulus. So it's never too early. And just because some children may not have those traditional concerns around them doesn't mean that we can't always be promoting mental health for all children, whether we're concerned or not. At the end of the day, if you take nothing else from this chat, it really boils down to relationships and how important it is for children to develop these relationships, but us as practitioners to developing relationships with families, with other colleagues, with other sectors, with other systems that support this age group. So particularly for children, it's really about having the opportunity to develop those strong relationships with many caregivers. Once upon a time, we used to say one strong, secure relationship, buffering relationship. Now the science is telling us that it's two. So the more people children have in their corner, the better, right? I think about, how many times have we heard these stories of these athletes that have come from some pretty, their childhood was pretty scary, but they had a coach or a parent or a teacher or someone in their life that really believed in them. And that was how they determined their success, right? I had someone who believed in me, who took care of me, who met my needs, who made me feel good about myself. That's foundational to all of the learning that happens. Being able to manage the sensory inputs, your internal and affective, internal, external, states, positive or negative, right? Managing the things that happen to us in our life. Being able to communicate, being able to say, hey, this is what I need, and actually have someone respond and meet those needs is important. And when we have those things, we can effectively manage the things that happen in the world, right? Think of COVID. COVID's probably one of the best examples of where people either didn't do so great or were able to manage or maintain because they had things in place. I even think about what's happening in Israel and Palestine right now, right? How do we adapt to some scary stuff that may happen? We can't change those things, but how do we give children the tools to manage as best as they can? That's our role. So when we are looking at the outcomes of positive and early mental health, we're really looking at that secure attachment, which is foundational to everything, and it supports the development of self-regulation, resilience, and that optimal brain development. Those things together allow children to thrive in their life throughout their lifespan. The other piece we want to look at is around the social emotional development. And there's we have an online webinar that's free for everyone called our Introduction to Infant Early Mental Health Basics. And some of these, some pieces from that are built into what we're talking about today, but it does a deeper dive into our social emotional development, recognizing how incredibly complex it is, and that it's a huge umbrella that's made up of, self-regulation, compliance, social communication, adaptive functioning, autonomy, affect, and interaction with people. And so these are components that make up social emotional development and contribute to those skills that we're looking for when children are entering kindergarten, for example. Recognizing that behavior is communication. And how do we take a moment to look at a child's behavior and try to understand why that behavior exists? It serves a purpose. That behavior serves a purpose. If we understand the purpose of that behavior, we might actually be able to give that child a better way of expressing that need, because that need isn't going to go away. We just want to give them better tools to get what they need in a way that's often, more pro-social. I'm going to take a few moments just to talk a little bit about brain development and recognizing that for 0 to 3, this is the greatest time of brain development that's happening, and it's the most profound time. And if we want to input as many positive things as we want, now is the time to do that. Right now, the science is telling us that over 1 million neural connections are made every single second. And so how are we ensuring that all of those seconds are being impacted in a positive way? Because it's building those synaptic connections in the brain. Think of it like a muscle, right? So the more experience a child has with a particular stimulus or experience, it's building and building and getting stronger and stronger. And what kinds of experiences do we want to strengthen in the brain? More than anything, we know that relationships drive development and relationships build brains. So it's incredibly important to remember that your every interaction with a child and your every action with a family is impacting brain development, but also the information you're passing on to families, because they're spending the most time with their little one. How are they using those seconds, right? So a few reflective questions that take a moment to think about or jot down. Did you think brain development was a part of your work? Thinking of yourself as a brain architect or a brain builder? How might you use some of this brain development information to infuse into your conversations with families? Because I think that's also a game changer for families when they start to shift from, behavior and why this is happening to this is actually what's happening in the brain and what can happen in the brain and what can't happen in the brain just yet for this particular age group. And we talk about that more in our intro around the specifics of the brain development piece. So coming back to relationships, as always, we actually have to look at relationships as profound and important as nutrition. That we know that relationship actually impacts brain architecture and development, and it drives development forward, right? I think we also have to remember that or relationships are actually often a huge protective factor. So despite what else might be going on in this little one's life, if they have people in their life who are buffering some of the trauma or the negative experiences that they have, that's going to be the thing that supports them. So we talk often about positive stress, tolerable stress, and toxic stress. And anytime something toxic is happening, there's a loss of a loved one, or family has lost a job, they have to move, whatever the case may be. If we have loving people who are buffering that experience, it actually takes a toxic stressor and turns it into a tolerable stressor where children can build resilience and bounce back. There are 4 classifications of attachment, but the one that we're always striving for is secure attachment. And this is where, again, relationship comes in. We're looking for opportunities where the child is cueing, saying, hey, I need something. And that's often with a cry. And there is a caregiver who's saying, I hear you, and I'm trying to figure out what your needs are. It's not always about getting it right, because that actually doesn't happen too often. 70% of the time, you're not going to get it right. But it's about that child cueing, saying, hey, I need you, and someone saying, hey, I'm here for you. We're going to figure this out together. And that's what's going to support that secure attachment. It's really important that when a caregiver is responding, that we're looking at these components, that it's a sensitive response, it's an appropriate response, it's consistent, and it's timely. Remove any one of these, and secure attachment just becomes more difficult to create. Something we always like to just create a bit of differentiation between is the concept of attachment and bonding. So simply put, attachment is when child initiates and says, hey, something's going on, I need you. And bonding is often initiated by the caregiver. Why don't we go and do tummy time? Let's go play, or let's come eat. That's a different type of interaction. So really looking for when the child is cueing, that the parent is addressing or the caregiver is addressing, and that's what's going to build that attachment. So some reflective questions to think about is, when you are looking at children, are you just looking at the child in isolation, or are you actually looking at the relationship or the dyad? Think about how you're watching a child cue and what the response is, if there's a response from the caregiver. And it's not just about how the child is cueing, it's really about what the response may actually look like, and what else you're seeing in that interaction. And can you make any real determinations about a child, their development, where they're at, without looking at the actual relationship? Can you actually pinpoint these things just looking at the child alone? At this age group, we really need to be looking at the dyad. So thinking about, does everyone have a fair start from the beginning? And once upon a time, we actually believed this concept of tabula rasa, that all children, once they were born, it was, clean slate, that we all started off with the same things. But we actually know that genetics plays an enormous part in how children come into the world. And it's the relationships and the experiences they have in the world that kind of turn on or turn off some of those genetic components. And so when we are working with children and families, we are thinking about what have those previous experiences been like, not just for the child that you're engaging with, but certainly for those families and those caregivers, thinking about the social determinants of health, as well as any other risk or protective factors. And they all play a role in how this child presents themselves. I mentioned this earlier, that the feelings babies get from people and experiences are wired into the brain. So again, they can't necessarily articulate, this happened or this happened, but their behavior tells us that there is a connection in the brain that tells them to behave in a certain way when faced with a certain experience. And so we want to be able to see behavior as communication, look back on that and think about, how can we better support, or how can we rewire the brain? Because we can, the brain is malleable. And while it is more difficult to unlearn something and relearn something, we want to try to put into the brain the kinds of experiences that we want straight from the start. But we can make changes if that's not the case. So again, some reflective questions to be thinking about. Are we thinking about social determinants of health? Are we thinking about previous experiences? Are we thinking about risk and protective factors, particularly protective factors? I think it's very easy for us to think about the risks, but what are families doing that is actually working really well? What are we as practitioners doing that is actually working really well? And can we leverage those and amplify those to ensure that there are more protective factors or strong protective factors when we're thinking about supporting children and their families? So we've had this buzzword around trauma-informed care, or TIC, as it's sometimes referred to. And I just want to go over this quite briefly, because I think certainly my own experience as a practitioner, once upon a time believing that I needed to know what happened or what is happening in order to provide support is actually entirely untrue. We don't need to know what is going on, but we need to have a sense of, anytime a family is coming to us, and particularly in your roles for CAPC and CPNP, you're likely running into families who have experienced some kind of trauma, and we know the impact of trauma, right? We know that it impacts every single area of development. And all we need to know is that trauma can happen. We can't change the trauma, but we can certainly approach families in a way that is kind and sensitive and compassionate, and not needing them to actually tell us what's gone on, but know that we are extending ourselves as a resource. And despite what's going on with any family, what they've experienced, they know their child best. And their voice and their involvement in how we program or how we provide support is integral to actually getting to outcomes that we're looking for and making the journey of getting to outcomes that we're looking for far more meaningful. It's really not about putting together a plan or thinking about support and saying, oh, here, I've developed this for you. And it's, let's sit down and come up with a plan together that's going to work for you and your family. Because again, if relationships are driving development, we need to tell families and help them understand how important they are to that little one's development and their brain development. Because we're always going to come back to this relational component. You want to be supporting the relationship, not just the child or not just the parent, right? And the child and the parent may need sometimes different supports, but always come back to how are we supporting the relationship? And becoming a student of the family is one way of really being able to listen, actively listen to what the needs are and what the capacity is and how that family would like to move forward in engaging in program or service for them or their child. So again, some reflective questions. How can we adapt our own practice to meet the needs of families? And you're going to have to do that a fair amount because every family is unique and they all need something different. But what you can do always with that trauma-informed care is come to that conversation with kindness and compassion and take a moment for yourself, because particularly now when we're seeing what's happening in the world and we're still struggling with families who are struggling with coming out of COVID, take a moment for yourselves and recognize that, you know, there is vicarious trauma, and want to make sure that you're taking a moment to recognize that there is only so much you can do, right? And that as much as you are wanting to help and to do, families have to be ready for that, and they have to be ready to receive that. And so you can only push so much, and all you can do is offer yourself as a resource. So just keeping that in mind as well. So in Canada, we certainly know how incredibly diverse our country is, particularly in Ontario. And if you're in the Toronto area, you know that I think we have representation from absolutely every single country on this planet. And that takes a skill to remind ourselves that there is no one way of doing anything, particularly when we partner with our Indigenous communities. You know, we have to remind ourselves that the Western way isn't the only way, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's always the right way. And so really thinking about how do we engage with families whose belief and value systems don't necessarily match up with the ones that we've grown up with or have worked in. So I've certainly been trained as, you know, with Western thinking. And so it takes me a moment, and this is work for all of us, to really think about how are we acknowledging our biases? How are we pushing them aside when we are working with a family where their values and their beliefs differ from our own? And how do we not just put them aside, but how do we honor the family that we're working with? And helping them be, you know, express their wants and needs. And again, this goes back to this concept of being a student of the family. And certainly at IMP and across our teams, and Leslie can certainly attest to this, you know, this is a lifelong journey. This is not something you learn once and it's done. This is something you adapt to with every family, every community that you're working with or in. For time here still. We have a few more minutes. I think we're almost there. Thinking about cultural humility, this is another piece that I think is really important when we are working with families who are, you know, not necessarily it might be new to us, their culture, their customs might be something new to us. We're thinking about when we're part of a system, and sometimes a family may not want to work with you based on you and the system that you represent. And it's important to not take that necessarily personally, but to think about, how do we reflect on power imbalances? How do we reflect on biases towards us as well, right? How do we think about how we demonstrate respect for others? And not just that we have it in our head, but how we actually demonstrate that. And recognizing that this is a lifelong journey, particularly around cultural safety. We all have a responsibility to create an environment or a relationship that is culturally safe, but we can't actually tell everyone that it's culturally safe. It is actually the recipients of service who tell us whether or not the experience or the environment or the system is a safe place for them. We can't actually make that determination. And so it's really important that there is feedback back and forth around, what's working well, what's not working well, how can we adapt, what do we need to consider? And we have to do a little bit of work on our end to ensure that families feel safe coming to us when they are seeking service. And again, we all have biases. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just about how we frame them and how we, put them aside when we are working with families who perhaps challenge our own perceived notion of how things should be. So kind of in closing, recognizing that you do such incredible work and it is relational, and to keep that in mind, that this is about relationships, your relationship with the family, with the system, with the child, with your colleagues, with other sectors, with other communities, really thinking about all the things that come into play to support children and families, and and having a reflective component around what's my role and how do I what do I play in this system for this particular child and family. When the opportunity is available, think about how we're collaborating with others. We've been doing some work on pathways and connecting systems and different sectors because children often aren't engaging in just one sector or one system. And so how are we having conversations in a community amongst different professionals or caregivers who support the holistic approach of dealing with children and supporting children? So thinking about who else you can be connected to when you're providing your services. Oops. Advocacy can often feel like this big thing. It doesn't have to happen on a big stage. Advocacy could simply just mean looking for more opportunities to learn about supporting infant and early mental health. Is it taking a course or a training? Is it having more discussions with your colleagues or your organization about how are you prioritizing infant and early mental health? How are you having these conversations with families? How are you breaking down the science of infant and early mental health and sharing it with families so that they too feel empowered and have knowledge around how to support their child's development? How are you sharing this? Are you thinking about what do you have on your organizational websites? Can you share on social media, or can you post something from time to time that brings people back to what's happening for the overall well-being of little ones, not just their communication or their gross motor, but what are we doing for their mental well-being and their overall happiness and opportunity to meet their full potential. So on a slightly larger scale, thinking about who currently advocates for infants and young children and families in your organization. or your community? How can you be a stronger advocate for infants and young children? What other skills might you be able to hone in order to do this? And who do I need to talk to in order to advocate for this population? So some things to consider as you look at prioritizing infant and early mental health in your practice and within the work and the programs that you're all involved in. So thank you very much. Merci, miigwech. And happy to take any questions if there's time.
Thank you,
anybody...
Nicole.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Oh, my pleasure.
We're going to take a few, a minute or so to see if there's any questions from staff.
I am just going to put in the chat the link to the free webinar, the Introduction to Infant and Early Mental Health, which is, you know, this was just a snapshot of what's covered in there. It's about 3 hours, but it's a pre-recorded webinar. And if you're looking for a little bit more of a deeper dive, that presentation is available to you.
Excellent. Thank you.
No problem.
I really appreciated all of your presentation. And, you know, many things jumped out at me that I'd love to talk further about too, but I just want to say the reflective questions were especially, I think, really, really helpful. And I don't know how you feel about sharing your slides. I know that's, you know, but if that's at all possible, I'd be, you know, delighted to share them out with the group if that's something you're comfortable with. Just, yeah, there's so much good information, and those reflective questions I want to go back to. So good.
Yes,
absolutely. I don't think that'll be a problem. We can put that together. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, it's always such a great great presentation and great reminder to all of us that, you know, we each play a role, and it's such an important role, so we shouldn't underestimate, you know, the role that we have in working with families and children and infants. So absolutely. Thanks for that reminder that we're all brain architects.
You are.
Oh, and I see Leslie has a hand. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, thanks. Nice to see some faces that I remember and haven't seen for a long time. And wow, lots of new names. So that's really exciting also. I just wanted to add, like I was with CAPC and CPNP for many, many moons, as Blanca, you know. And I've always been a tremendous advocate for CAPC CPNP programs because I like the idea that we raise each other up for the important work we do. The relationships that happen in CAPC and CPNP are unique and different and so valuable. So I was really excited to hear the update around the funding and the future for CAPC and CPNP programs, just because they are so critical in communities. And I've just seen firsthand how many differences they've made in so many families. So I just commend everyone for their work. And certainly on my list is to connect with Sydney and talk a little bit more about infant and early mental health in CAPC and CPNP, because in my transition from being with CAPC and CPNP and now with IMP, I just see so much possibility that I think, and Blanca is so aware and has been a huge advocate for many years also. But I just think there's so many opportunities for these programs, and I'm so happy to see everyone here. So yeah, just wanted to say thanks and hi everyone. And also congrats on the amazing work you do.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And for sure, we should really connect. And it is great that this last year, thanks to funding from the Public Health Agency of Canada, we have access to that amazing 15-part webinar training. So if you are not aware and you want more information, please connect with me, but that is an opportunity that we currently have well into the new year. So if you want to get more knowledge and skills, that's an opportunity. And we're always looking for ways that we can provide that to our projects.
Another great resource that's fairly new on the website is a series of videos that we developed on working with children in the early years who've experienced trauma, and they're more specifically targeted, or not targeted, more specifically developed to support foster parents. But I feel like the content of those would be very interesting to CAPC CPNP staff, and those are on our website. Free to view also and free to share, but I think that they would give you a lot of insight for many of the families that perhaps that have young children who've experienced trauma.
That's really great. Thanks, Leslie. We had a what did we call it? A viewing party? I forget what we called it. This summer. Yeah. So we all viewed one of your amazing videos together and had a discussion after, which it was really well received, and definitely great information and information about how to get more skills and knowledge around mental health. So thanks for that. We'll check that out. So I guess there's no questions, no further questions or comments. You can put them in the chat as well. For Nicole and Leslie. So thank you again, Nicole. Amazing presentation. Such great, like I said, reminder that we all have a role in a child's life and development. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and certainly, again, congratulations on all the amazing work that you're doing. And I know some days it's like, are we making a difference? But know that you are. And
Thank
it
you.
is recognized, certainly amongst this group.
Thanks so much.
Me? Yeah, well, we're now moving into the part of our program where we're getting to spend some time with folks from projects from all across Ontario. And so I would like to invite, we have Sunny and Kim, Maria, Stephanie, and Nettie. We're glad to have you come and spend a few minutes. Everybody's been given, up to 10 minutes to share about their program. And I believe we're going to start with Sunny Kopanets from the Northwest Zone. Are you here, Sunny? Hi.
Hello, I am. I've just been listening and enjoying the presentation so far. It's really nice to hear and see everything that's being done and everything across the board. So it was really nice to hear. Thank you guys for asking me to come. I'm always happy to present on the program and what it offers and helps with families here in my region. So I don't know, did you just want me to start going, Sid, or?
Yes, please. And I'm going to put a friendly little timer, and Blanca and I will help. We'll try to give you a 1-minute warning, just so that we can, keep things going here. So okay. Over to you, Sunny. We're glad to have you and hear about your program.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, guys. Well, my name is Sunny Kopanas. I have been the CAPC coordinator at the Nietzsche Friendship Center in Kenora, Ontario for about 14 years now, going on 14 years. Right out of college, I went straight to Nietzsche. I started in the youth program, and then I fell in love with the family support program, which is what we call our program, the CAPC. It's called the Aboriginal Family Support Program. So funny thing is I did my co-op there and I loved the program. And then when I came out of college, it was sadly being run by the same two ladies. And so I went for the youth program, and I was like, well, I'm just going to sit here and bide my time in youth. And if they go, maybe I'll slip in. And sure enough, one of the assistant wanted to move on closer home. And so I got into as the assistant, and then I got into the coordinator position a couple years after that. So I love the program. helped out so much, so many families in my area. In my area, I do work with a lot of low-income Indigenous families that live off reserve. And we've been providing programming such as nutrition bingos, community kitchens, cultural crafts, feasts, ceremonies, Banneken tea, mom and tot day, things like that. And like I've said, I've been doing this for 14 years, and it's funny when I started, we were doing little leaders, which is when we take children from ages 4 to 6. We bring them to the center for a couple of hours, and we will have a craft, an Indigenous craft, so we could learn bits and small pieces of our culture, like the Indigenous names for animals and counting in Ojibwe, and there was a little boy there. He was 6 years old. I met him and became close friends right off the hop. He did age out, and now he's about 19 years old, and I still see him sometimes downtown. And hi, Sonny, and he always comes up and tells me what he remembers of the program, and it just shows me the lifelong impact we do for these young ones and how it stayed with him. And he had a rough upbringing. His mom had a rough upbringing, and it kind of just a little bit of that generational bleed from things happening in the Indigenous lives, and from all the bad things that happened around him. One of the good memories is the program, and how him and his mom could play together when they'd come, and how they did crafts together. He still says, "I can still count to 30 in Ojibwe," and so I just love the fact that we can help these families, and then we're seeing how we're helping them when they get older and they age out, or when they have more children. So like him, he was the oldest sibling, and then there was 4 little siblings that came after him, so he was part of the program right until his last sibling aged out just recently. So he would come to the feasts, or he would come to a ceremony and things like that. So he was still in it. And then now when I see him, he's just like, "Oh, I best memories is when I was a kid, and we'd do little leaders, and we would do the powwow stop song and things like that." So same with moms and single moms, especially single moms. A lot of the time they're on their own, so they are doing mom things every day, day in, day out. Some of them don't even get to have adult interactions because it's strictly mom. I have an infant, I have a toddler, and I have an older one. So when they get to come to the Nietzsche Friendship Center and come and sit and have tea and listen to a presentation in regards to sleep patterns or tooth decay in infants, and it lightens them up too, because they're finally getting to sit with other adults that have same little ones running around, and the little ones are playing, and the adults can sit and have tea and talk. And my son is in sleep regression, I don't know what to do. Well, another mom pipes up, "Well, try this. And it's building that community, building that family. And some of these relationships these women have are gone so far beyond being clients coming to programming. I have a few moms who are best friends, and they met at the program, and they help each other out because they're both single moms. They live close together. So just seeing the impact of how this program helps and continues to help. And I'm hopeful that it'll continue to help, that we keep going, and that when that 2030 comes up, that we still can continue with the program and keep supporting these future families that are going to be coming. And because this program is needed, and not only for the culture revitalization of it, but the security of having somebody having their back and saying, in their mind, like, "I'm struggling right now, a check didn't come in, or something's happening. I'm going to call the family support team and see what they can help out with." And, that's a great privilege for me and Savannah. Savannah's my assistant. We feel so privileged to be part of these people's lives, and then see how it impacts them future on with their future kids, or when they age out, and say, like, "That's amazing. Like, I don't know any other programs that do this stuff." And I was so alone. I felt so lost. And being at your program, it helped me become a better parent and help others. And it's so true that it takes a community to raise a child. And that's what these moms know now. Like, and it's beautiful to see. It became so much more than just our program. It's becoming a community and word of mouth. And my mom, a mom that's been with me for 10 years, telling another young mom about the program, and then that young mom comes along. So it's going to continue to help. It's going to continue to grow. And I'm just so grateful that we could be a part of that. Yeah, and I don't know what else to say. I love my position. I think I'm gonna be here. My ED always calls me the lifer because I think I'm gonna be here forever. I was 20 when I came in, and 14 years later, I'm still here. So, yeah. I mean, is there any questions? Like, I don't know what else you might want me to step on and to talk with. So let me know.
I really just thank you so much for your sharing. And I don't know if I properly introduced you, Sunny. Sunny Kopanes from you're the Aboriginal Family Support Coordinator. Is that right? At the Nietzsche Friendship Center in Kenora?
Yes.
I want to make sure I get that right. Does anybody have we have a couple minutes, or maybe we'll have questions at the end. Are you able to stick around?
No, I can stick around. My nephew's sleeping now, so I'm hiding in the bedroom.
Okay. Well, we'll have maybe questions at the end. And certainly people can feel free to put questions in the chat. So delightful to hear from you. Thank you so much, Sunny, for joining us and sharing of your program. Your passion and your joy for the work is evident and infectious. So yeah, unless there's anything else that you wanted to say at the moment, we will.
No, thank you very much for listening. I could talk for hours and of all these little tidbit things that have happened throughout 14 years of watching the program grow and help out. And yeah, no, it's amazing. So if anybody wants to reach out even after the meeting or want to network in regards to what programming I do, what works, and by all means, please reach out. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sunny, and we'll talk again soon. Okay, so I'm going to remove the spotlight from Sunny, and now we are going to move on to who is next on my list. I think the folks from the East Zone. And I know we have Kim Groskleg, the manager of CAPC and Early On Programs at the Community Resource Center in Killaloe. And I know you've got a colleague there with you, Kim. So I'm going to put the spotlight on the two of you.
Hi, thank you very much. This is my co-worker, Jen Good. Hi. And we're here today to talk, to tell you a little bit about our toy bus story. 30 years ago, the toy bus, we're going to bring a picture up of thing one and thing two. The one bus was our original one, and then we moved to a newer model. They're half-size school buses, painted primary colors, as you can tell, and so, over the years, I've flowed in and out of small rural communities on a weekly basis. And when we first started, maybe 5 to 6 communities, and we'd go in and into maybe a church hall of some sort and unload everything from the bus. And then the bus was transformed into a loan-out center. So families could go on with their children and climb those big steps and loan out books and toys for the week and bring them back the next week. And you know what? That is where much of the CAPC work took place. While the children were busy searching out for just the right thing to take home, parents and caregivers were able to have those one-on-one conversations with toy bus staff about, just events that were taking place or things that were really worrying them or it could have been anything, and really, really spoke to that trust they had in the team. Over the years, the bus has evolved and the program has evolved, and today we visit 9 to 10 communities on a weekly basis. Our vehicle has been upgraded from this half-size school bus to we have 2 large service vehicles and 1 small service van. They're still painted the primary colors, and we fashioned them to look like the old toy bus as well. And on many days, we have 3 teams delivering 3 different kinds of programs, maybe taking place in 3 different communities. So we've just grown, and we provide a wide range of programming, you know, from drop-in style groups to infant massage and make the connection early attachments, parenting programs that are nobody's perfect and positive disciplines. We've started this past year really working hard to engage with our dads. So we have a Valley Dads program, we're calling it. And most of these programs are all mobile, so we move them. Really, the communities are the ones that decide what types of programming needs they have. We listen and we deliver. And again, over the years, our community partners like churches, townships, municipalities, libraries, schools, they really have, you know, we've had long-lasting relationships with many, and they provided space, a free space in their small communities for us for the past 30 years. It's absolutely amazing, you know, and we so appreciate that. And same with our partners. You know, we've really built collaborative relationships because, you know, it's hard for service agencies as well as us to serve these smaller communities. So when we work in partnership and collaborate, we can do a lot more, and it just makes things so much easier. So at our conference in February, the CAPC CPNP conference, we shared a video that really, it really shows what the program is. And so we'd like to play that video again for you, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Can everybody see it okay?
I see it. I don't hear anything yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, just 1 second.
Please
Share
hold.
down, share. There we go. It's been a few minutes since I shared a video. Sorry about that. Okay.
Sorry.
You ready?
How's that?
Yep.
I can't.
You're good.
I have a real problem. Okay, are you ready now?
Are you going first or
Yeah.
am I going first?
You go first.
Okay. Tell me when.
Anytime.
Hi, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Jenny.
We're here in Barry's Bay. It's Monday. Come out and play.
Woo! Can you be stopping now?
Jesus.
Hi, I'm Kim Grossclegg, and I work for the Toy Bus. I manage the Toy Bus program. It is a CAPC CPNP mobile program that travels throughout the southwestern portion of Renfrew County. We mostly go to really small rural communities that are quite isolated. Some of them might be an hour and a half to their closest urban center. So we roll into these towns and we bring a variety of programs with us. Weekly drop-ins, the toy bus arrives, and we unload all the toys and equipment and set up a really quality early learning environment. And families from that community drop in and get to know one another, children play. That's our weekly drop-in. We offer a variety of other programs as well, you know, from infant massage, Make the Connection, our early attachment programs, to preschool, school readiness programs for children. Many in these smaller rural communities don't have a whole lot of opportunity to play with others. They're the same age, so you know, we'll do a little program for them. It's different for every community. Every community has its own personality, and that is something that takes a little while to get to learn about that community, get to know what their needs are, and that's when we roll in with the programs that best suit them.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay.
Okay, 3. I'll do a little thing, okay?
Okay. A little naughty nod.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Karen.
And today we're in
Eganville. Our CAPC CPNP projects allow families to gather with us in a safe place. It also allows their children to have a really fun place to explore and learn. Everything we do has a purpose. And we also provide nutritional snacks and some really cool recipes that we love to share with our families.
I think that the families that come to our programs feel a lot safer whenever they need to get resources. They have a connection with us and we're able to get them to the next step of resources without them feeling like they have to go and find it themselves. I also think we're a really safe place for them to connect with other people and feel a lot less alone and isolated, especially in our rural setting.
A big part of our role as CAPC CPNP, when we go into these small communities, I really believe is connecting families and building those relationships, taking that time to connect people with others going through the same things and spending time getting to know them. I really believe that's a big part of our job.
Hi everybody, I'm Maureen and today we're in Whitney.
So as you saw in the video, like a big part of what we do is really working hard to build those relationships with the families that we serve. You know, without establishing those trusting relationships, we'd never get a glimpse into many of their lives of these vulnerable families that we serve. And, you know, that trust keeps them coming back out on a weekly basis to our groups. You know, it honors us when they share their stories with us, and especially when they share their children with us. And Jen is going to give us a little glimpse into her experience with the twins.
I have quite a beautiful story, and when Kim asked me to share, this came to mind right away. I started out as a toy bus mom, and I ran a home daycare. So I brought my 5 little daycare children to toy bus every week. And I never would have known until I started working here what was happening behind the scenes. As a parent and as a caregiver, you could see that there were definitely some vulnerable families who came out to group. I never understood why, when I went to toy bus programs, in comparison to some other early ons, which were fun, but at Toy Bus, I just felt this sense of community. And I felt that all the parents rallied around these families. You could see that they shared resources. And I noticed that the staff were so much more connected and so much more involved with all of the families at Toy Bus. And it was this beautiful thing. And until I started working here, I didn't realize. It's kind of like when all the pieces fall together and your light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, they were actually doing all this behind the scenes work and working with some of these families one-on-one. I found out they were even running a parent cafe program with some of the more vulnerable families in those areas where they were provided a meal and getting access to different resources and being able to rely on each other. You know, and it was just one of those heartbreaking open moments when I started working here, and I thought I was getting hired to work, you know, at Toy Bus and facilitate these programs, but I didn't realize until really shortly after I started working about the amazing work that we really do behind the scenes and all of the things that happen, all the debriefing that happens. And now when I go out to group, my eyes are open and I'm always looking for those light bulb moments. And when I meet somebody outside of group, that I know might be a family that needs some resources or needs connection, it's usually easier to get them to come to group first. Kim often says it's like the carrot. And so you give them the group And then through that relationship, you start realizing what their needs are. And maybe there's some needs that we didn't even realize in the beginning, but then you can provide those resources. And they have that connection with all of those other families, so they feel safe. And then sometimes having those hard conversations with families, or being able to, there's lots of things that we do to help families that I don't think we could do if we hadn't got them to group first. So I really wanted to share that story because I feel like that kind of embraces what our program does so beautifully.
Thank you.
Pretty great.
Really great. We'll sort of come to the end of your little time slot, but I just wanted to check in. Was there anything else that you wanted to?
No.
Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming and telling us about your program and the work that you're doing. So let's move on. I'll remove your spotlight there, and let's now welcome Maria Velasquez. Welcome, Maria is the manager early learning and care at Macaulay Centers for Children. So Maria, I will spotlight you, and let's hear what you have to say and hear about your programs.
Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's having a good afternoon. Can everybody see my screen, or I'm not sharing yet? No.
You're not sharing yet. No.
Give me 1 second. Can everybody see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I don't have the beautiful video or amazing inspired story. We all have our own unique things that we want to highlight and share with you all today. This is the second time that I've been asked to share something about a beautiful Program Without Walls CAPC project. But before I start, I just want to tell you a little bit more about what's happening at Macaulay, because I am here today, but I'm not any longer the program supervisor for PWW CAPC. But I'm having a very, very difficult time to detach from this group. That's why I'm here today. Sandra Tuzi is here with me today. She's the new program supervisor, and she's just here to see what I am going to share, because this is the baby that I am passing over to her. So before I start talking about the project that is very dear to my heart, and I've been working for the last, I'm going to say 10 years, and I really have a big passion for. I just wanted to say thank you, and I will stay connected as much as I can, because I cannot help myself to not be connected, as you can tell. So moving along, as I say, our project is called Program Without Walls. It's a name that I did not create it. I wish I can take recognition for that, but it isn't mine. As you can see, we used to be called Macaulay Child Development Center. We now have a new branding name. It's called Macaulay Centers for Children. So those are one of the changes. The first thing that I wanted to kind of show you, because we are in the city of Toronto, and as you can imagine, our city is quite busy and overpopulated. So our project is only assigned to what we call Old City of York. So this is for those in the city of Toronto that are here, that I don't see many names. This is kind of an idea of the area that we served. So different than what we just saw, the amazing school bus that drives miles and away from each location. Ours are blocks, minutes away from each other, but they're extremely overpopulated and busy too. So our Program Without Walls, it's a coalition of 6 agencies, Macaulay being the lead agency. And the beauty of this project, it's what we heard earlier in the intro. It's the fact that we partner with grassroots organizations, diverse organizations that provide different type of services. So I'm going to name them. So Macaulay, we have our home visitors. And they go to, in that geographically area, to homes where parents, isolated parents, high-risk parents, parents who had self-identified themselves that they are at risk or need extra support. So this family home visitors go on a regular basis to visit and support child development, inclusion into the community, etc. Art Starts, they provide the fun part of all the programs that we offer, because they provide a lot of dance and movement, Zumba classes, anything related for parents in one room and the children in the other room. So we wanted a combination of to target at the healthy habits as well. And Art Starts have been able to provide that for our project. Some Bernadettes, it's what used to be called We Need a Break. We provide respite care for the high-risk children that need, those parents that need a couple hours to run errands, etc. So we've been able to provide that since the beginning of CAPC project. Somali Immigrant Association, their focus is on health and nutrition based on Somali population. Toronto Public Health, I'm going to speak a little bit more about that in a minute, so I'm just going to keep it paused there a bit. Jerktown is a mental health agency, and they provide parenting programs in Spanish and English throughout the year. Toronto Public Health, it's been our strongest partner forever since we started CAPC. And this is one of the things that I wanted to highlight today, because of the transition to pre-COVID to this day. Our health unit, which is Toronto Public Health, we're going under review just before COVID in 2019. And they were going to pause all parenting programs, but then COVID happened. And we were able to transform the transition, including this year. So how we were able to do it, because they don't any longer in any part of the city of Toronto for any project offer Nobody's Perfect, Make the Connection, Living and Learning with Baby, which are the most high-need parenting programs in the entire city. But they're not able to deliver those services anymore. But we needed to stay connected with them and to keep them to be part of our project. So what we created, I call it, we were able to negotiate, but I'm not sure how much negotiation happened. We were really wanting them to be part of our project. Their new mandate was to support early on programs. So what I did on our end is I said, listen, we have early on programs on our end. Why don't we offer Program Without Walls within the early on, and we keep you coming consistently? And we were able to pilot that last year and this year, and it's been very successful. And what you're seeing here is just a sample of the programs that they offer, the workshops. Some are virtual, some are in person. It started virtual because all the nurses were virtual. Now we're transitioned to in person. So that way we're securing in the early on those regular nurse visits to provide these one-offs. They're not what we wish, which is the parenting component, the 6 sessions, 7 sessions. So, you can go through the parenting cycle, but at least we're still having that presence and that connection from the nurses. We were able to do a very successful session recently in September, virtual, in partnership with Toronto Public Health and their speech team. Because as you know, we are just getting an increase of children that are being referred to speech and language services. So we were able to have secured those sessions for our families as well. You don't need to read this. This is kind of an example of 1 quarter what it happens in Program Without Walls with all our 6 partner agencies. So we kind of, Macaulay being the lead agency, we gather all that information and ensure that they are operating all our programs that we are aiming to have in every area of the old city of York. And I am going to, oh my God, now how can I do this? Stop. Now I cannot stop sharing. I don't know where my stop sharing went. Oh, here. because I want to be able to speak on really what he has done to the families. So last time, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, that I talked about a family who's been through all our PWW programs. And now, back then, we saw this single mom being very successful, starting her own personal careers. And I want to share a little bit that this same person, we've been following her through the years. We're happy to say that she's now in our board of it's one of our board of directors at Macaulay. And she's pursuing and almost finishing her career as a child and youth counselor and psychotherapist. So I'm not saying that it's thanks to PWW, but we were able to give her a journey through her life with her child. She had a home visitor. She was one of our Nobody's Perfect facilitators, community facilitators. She supported and delivered sessions with our public health nurses and all that. And these days, every time I see her when we're having presentations to the board of directors, and I see on the other end, my heart just filled, because it's one of the many examples that we can see in how all these CAPC CPNP programs impact our communities and give the tools that our families need in the most hard times. I am personally not part of, I've never used PWW, but I just want to say that I've been in Canada for 22 years. I've been at Macaulay for almost 20. And I started as a frontline worker, and I came with my family as a refugee. And I wish I've known how to navigate many of these programs, because this is what we get to see in our communities, all those newcomers, the refugees, or the most in need, and how these opportunities just give them and make the difference for all our families, for their future, and the transitions in a country like Canada. How am I with time?
30 seconds left, Maria. Yeah,
I'm not going to speak anymore because 30 seconds, what can I say? I'm going to say just thank you. And as you can tell, I am very passionate about Program Without Walls, CAPC CPNP. Yes. And I hope I will stay connected as much as I can. But as you know, I am, as we're speaking, transitioning to this big new role that I have. Thank you, everyone.
You're able to stay connected as well, Maria. Thank you so much for taking time to share the information and your passion with us today. So thank you, Maria, from Central Zone. And I will remove your little spotlight here. And we will move on to, very happy to welcome, who have we got next? Stephanie Brazeau from the Northeast Zone, Manager, Family Services at Our Children, Our Future in Sudbury. So welcome, Stephanie. We're excited to hear about your program. I'm just going to try to spotlight you here. Okay, there.
Hello.
Hello.
So can you see my presentation screen?
I do. Yeah, I see you. I see your presentation.
Perfect. I practiced this with my coworker Nicole, who's on today. So I'm glad that ended up working out, because it took us a bit to get this going. Thanks, Sydney, for inviting me out today. And thanks for everyone who presented before me. When Sydney asked for me to come present, I thought a couple weeks ago, I presented at Children's Aid Society, and it took an hour to talk about all our programs that we offer under CAPC CPNP. So we don't have an hour today, we have 10 minutes. So I'm going to highlight one section of our programming. So to start off, my name is Stephanie Brazeau. I'm the Manager of Family Services with Our Children, Our Future. I've worked for the organization for over 25 years now in the CAPC CPNP program. So been around for a while. So who are we? So Our Children of Future was created in 1995 under the name of Brighter Futures. So even though we've been around for 28 years in the community, we've officially celebrated our 25th anniversary in August, because in 1998, the organization changed its name officially to Our Children, Our Future, and we became an incorporated registered charity. So we're located in the Northeastern Zone and operate programs under CAPC and CPNP funding. So where are we located? We are located in many different locations throughout the greater city of Sudbury and the Manitoulin-Sudbury districts. We are located in churches, schools, community centers, arenas, libraries. So instead of a one-stop center, we strategically are placed in the most vulnerable communities and sites where families frequently attend. So like Maria, I'm pulling up a little map here to kind of give you an idea. So if you see the etched border here, this is considered the greater city of Sudbury. So the little hearts is all of our locations that we're in right now. So we span across the greater city of Sudbury districts from New Sudbury, Minnow Lake, and South End, all the way to Valley East, Caperville up here. And then also, if you look over on this side, Cartier is a unorganized township. They absolutely have nothing in that community. It's down the 144 corridor towards Timmins. So we're lucky enough to be able to service a lot of high-risk families in that community as well. And if you look over here down, this is the district of, we call it La Cloche, Nairn Center, Espanola, Webwood, Massey. And to the east of the district called Sudbury East, which is over here, which is Marksday, Warren, St. Charles, Noelville, and all the way to Killarney over here. So just to give you an idea, from our main center over here to all these locations is roughly about an hour and a half to all these locations, about 2 hours to Killarney, to give you a little bit of idea of where we span. Okay, so under our Community Action Program for Children programming, we operate programs like play groups, support groups, parent education programs. We also offer Dad's Night, some outdoor programming, gross motor programming, tons of special events, car seat clinics, family fun nights. I am going to focus a little bit on our cooking programs and our food security programs in a second. Also, under our Canadian Prenatal Nutrition Program, we operate infant massage, Welcome Baby, which is an infant program, and Creating Healthy Babies, which is our prenatal programming. So under our food security programs, we offer several cooking programs, from slow cooker workshops, sheet pan cooking, community kitchens. Families come and they have the opportunity to learn about the importance of healthy eating, to develop their cooking skills while preparing healthy, affordable meals for their families, which they get to take home, which we cook and make under a specific budget in this group environment. So here's a little, gives you an idea of some things that we've cooked. Participants learn how to plan and cook nutritious meals based on, of course, we follow Eating Well with Canada's Food Guide. It's more than a cooking program. We talk about budgets, healthy food choices, how to make grocery lists, economical and healthy substitutions. We like to work a lot of our recipes with beans and lentils because a lot of our families use food banks. That's what they have access to. So a lot of families, say, well, what else can I make besides chili with beans? So we kind of open their eyes to a variety of different meals. This gives you a little indication here of our slow cooker workshop. So this is 3 meals that family would have taken home with the sides, of course. So just to kind of go a little bit more into the cooking program. So I think the big thing is that the families get opportunity to not only learn cooking skills and budget skills, but the opportunity to get out of the house and meet new people. Sometimes they don't even care what they're making. I mean, the food and the food security is important, but just getting together with people and discussing some commonalities is huge. I mean, on top of growing those relationships with others, they're gaining more knowledge on how to read food labels. They're sharing different ideas on healthy recipes. We're teaching them safe food handling practices, of course. And what's nice about it is we have a local charity who provides slow cookers and sheet pans to our participants who don't have access to that. So we actually provide for free the cooking equipment if they don't have it. So here's a little example I thought I'd show you. It's always nice to kind of get a feel of what it looks like. So right here is about $100, believe it or not. to feed 3 families with, I believe my notes, 4 recipes. So this is 4 recipes. So if you could see, the table's divided in 3. So 3 families got to take home all this food for $100, believe it or not. A lot of families say, how is this even possible to feed 3 families with 4 recipes? Well, we use a lot of ingredients such as rice and pasta that could really bring the recipe a long way. And of course, all the recipes include healthy vegetables as well. So on top of our adult cooking programs, we offer cooking with kids as well. So of course, it's important to engage the children and teaching them basic fundamentals of cooking as well, providing them with knowledge and understanding of creating easy and healthy recipes for, of course, a lifelong nutrition eating habits. So our goals of this program is to encourage children to try new things by providing an environment that inspires discovery and creativity. As we all know that if children are involved in the process, most of the time they will eat it. So it's promoting self-reliance, independence. We really, really encourage parents to allow children to cut, peel, measure, stir. So we start as young as age 2. In this program, and sometimes it's just hand over hand that the children need to, parents are helping the children, but we really, really encourage independence of the children. We're teaching them safety and safe food practices, practicing hand-eye coordination, I should say, introducing the use of new equipment and tools. So we like to always use different things like graters and peelers. We're promoting improving early literacy, of course, and numeracy by measuring, exposing children to affordable and easy, healthy food. Gives children an opportunity to experience taste, feel, smell of their very own cooking, and they're so proud of it as well. Of course, part of our food security program that we offer free snacks and meals. And during all of our programs, all snacks are planned under of course, the Eating Well with Canada's food guide. We were lucky enough for a dietitian at our public health unit to help us create our guidelines. Examples are anything from fresh fruit, vegetables, hummus, boiled eggs, yogurt, milk, and grain products, of course. So another program that we offer is the Infant Food Cupboard. So our Infant Food Cupboard provides family with infants access to emergency supplies of milk, infant formula, and diapers. The Infant Food Cupboard provides temporary relief to families to support them in emergency situations while referring them, of course, to additional social supports. So families, how this works is they would call the Infant Food Cupboard number, leave a message anytime during the week, request assistance, what they need. Our staff will return phone calls within 1 to 2 business days. So once request is submitted, the participants can pick up their order at a local partnering pharmacy or grocery store. This program is can be accessed once per month. However, we encourage families to attend our other programs that I've just mentioned above. So as we want to provide families a hand up and not a hand out. So our Children Future is aware that access to and distribution of healthy foods has been a challenge in our community. Many of our programs seek to alleviate some of those stresses that food insecurities place on families. We continue to assist more local families with young children who need real help right now. It's a priority and must be considered a significance of well-being for our children. So again, the programs that I have spoke about, Infant Food Cupboard, our cooking programs, healthy snacks and meals. We also have grocery cards and milk vouchers that we provide. My last slide. So we all know that CAPC CPNP funds are limited. Therefore, in order to make many of our initiatives and food security programs possible, we need to partner with local organizations, business, and charities. So as you see in the slide here, we do choy drives, winter clothing drives, backpack programs, and food rescue. None of this would be possible without community partners and local businesses who help support this. As a food rescue, if anyone is familiar with that, it's a provincial initiative. I encourage you to look them up, because food rescue, their motto is rescue food, fuel people, help the environment, putting food on plates, not in landfills. So if you're not familiar with it, basically we rescue food in grocery stores, delis, Starbucks, As an example, we pick up the food that is going to go to waste and we provide it to families who are needing emergency food. So we've given roughly about 10,000 pounds of food in the past 12 months as a result of food rescue. And that's 11 minutes and my time is up.
Good, Stephanie. Wow. That's an amazing amount of food that you distributed, for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. And so Stephanie Brezzo, Northeast Zone, thanks for coming and sharing. And we, last but not least, I'm so happy to see Nettie Wall is with us. Hi, Nettie. Nettie is the manager, Family Education and Support Project of Aylmer with Mennonite Community Services. She was a past member on our coordinating committee, and really glad to see you here and hear about your programming. So let me just spotlight you here and hand things over to you. Hi, Nettie.
Oh, thanks, Sydney. So I realized that we are at 3 o'clock and I will try to keep this fairly brief. Our program, so FESPA is what we call it, is currently in its 30th year of operation, and most of that is funded throughout the years primarily by CAPC. I'm very passionate about the work of our programs. I believe that one of the most amazing aspects is that each community is able to look at the unique needs within their community and create a program that meets those specific needs. At our site, we work primarily with the low German-speaking newcomer women and children. Most of them come from Mexico, some from Bolivia and Paraguay, and occasionally someone from Belize, which is incidentally where I come from. Most years, we also have a few participants from other cultures, but definitely our strength is in retraining those from the low German community. Our staff currently are all from that low German-speaking background. They're fairly knowledgeable about the culture and they speak the language. A little background on our families. Most of the women and children who attend come from a very traditional background and have very traditional views of faith, gender, and gender roles. They strongly adhere to the teaching of their church and are very concerned about any teachings that might contradict their values or place them at odds with their church. They have strong ties to extended family and community, and they often travel back to their country of origin for the holidays. A lot of our families do seasonal work in the fields during the summer and fall, so there are certain times where they're not available to attend programs and other seasons when they will attend. Another factor is that they tend to distrust a lot of institutions, and that distrust was unfortunately exacerbated during the COVID pandemic. So what do we offer these families? Our program is essentially a school setting for women and their preschool room or their preschool children. We partner with various organizations like many of the other people have mentioned. Two of those organizations are the YWCA and Fanshawe College, who send us teaching staff. They will help the women to learn English and necessary skills to become independent in Canada, while also incorporating teaching on health topics like nutrition, exercise, safety. We've done various cooking classes with them as well, different things like that. Additionally, we bring in guest presenters to cover topics that the teaching staff might not be comfortable with or that require more in-depth knowledge. While the women are attending classes, we provide on-site care for the children ages 0 to 6 in our childcare rooms. Childcare staff support learning and development through activities, songs, and teaching. Children learn to overcome separation anxiety, and they develop many needed social skills through attending the program. We have a room for our infants and another one for our preschool age children. I think our favorite time of the day is when in the mornings when families come in and we see the preschoolers let go of mom's hand and they begin a mad dash down the hallway to get to their preschool room because they're excited for what the day will bring. So ours is not a drop-in program. We require the women to register, women and children. We hope to encourage more consistent attendance and also to increase the impact on families. We do a number of things to reduce barriers, like providing transportation assistance for women living in town. We provide lunch and snacks, so they don't need to bring any of that. We provide all the needed school supplies. And our program runs during the times when they're able to attend, like fall and winter, during the day when the children are in school. We take extended Christmas breaks because that's a big holiday for them. We start the program in late fall so as not to interfere with the field work. We end in early spring so that they can go back to the fields. We also offer support for medical appointments. We provide transportation and interpretation for appointments so that families can access medical care and know that they're being understood. Over the years, we've developed a reputation in the community with this program, and we rely on word of mouth. We actually don't need to advertise. Most years, we have a waiting list for women wanting to be part of the program, and sometimes women will contact us even before coming to Ontario. We would love to expand our program, but for now, we are very grateful for the funding that allows us to continue to provide this program. We regularly hear from the ladies about the impact that it has and how much they appreciate being able to learn here. So that is, in a nutshell, the program that we offer.
Thank you so much, Nettie. Really appreciate you joining us today and giving us an overview of the great work that you're doing with families. Yeah, I know we're kind of, I guess, a little bit over time, but hopefully folks are able to stay with us for a few more minutes and kind of help us wrap things up. I would like to thank Nettie and all of our presenters, and I'll remove your spotlight here, Nettie, and we can all so just a general gratitude to all of you who have come and shared your stories. I'm seeing gratitude in the chat, and certainly if there are any, if anybody has any questions, we might have a minute or two for that. Maybe especially feel free to pop your question in the chat, and the presenter can maybe respond to that. So just wanted to pause and check in to see if anybody does have anything they wanted to ask any of our presenters. I know I enjoyed hearing from all the different corners of our province and all the different and interesting innovation, and certainly the common theme of the excitement and the passion and commitment of the work that is happening. Definitely something to celebrate at 30 years. So, all right, I'm feeling like we should move on and get to this this photo contest and see if we have folks who've gotten the right answers. So let me, was there anything else you wanted to say, Blanca, before we do that?
I just wanted to echo the thanks for everyone who's presented and everyone who's joined. It is definitely you that make the program, your passion, your commitment to the well-being of children and communities. And it just reflects what we've heard today, how unique our programs are. And there are areas where there may be other programs, other resources. Some areas, CAPC CPNP is the only game in town. But in every situation, what you offer really is unique and valued, and it has a huge impact. So I just thank you so much. And this celebration it's about you and what you mean to kids in your communities. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go over to the to our mural board here, and we invited people just to take your own notes of your guesses of matching up the baby photos and the current photos, and then we'll check in, see if anybody got them all, and if we have a tie, we'll figure a way to break the tie. So let's start with number 1 here, baby photo number 1. And I will bring forward the correct corresponding current photo. There, number 1 is our friend Lee. So hopefully some folks got that correct. Moving on, photo number 2. It's here, baby photo number 2. And that is one of our celebrity photos here. Salma Hayek is number 2. Okay, moving on to number 3. Well, what can I say? That little cutie is me. And then number 4. That is another one of our little celebrity plants here. That is Irene Cara of Flashdance fame from back in the day. Moving on, number 5. This is our network member, Stephanie Woolridge. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your very cute photo there. Number 6. I might run out of room here. That is our good friend in the north east zone, Rachelle Peltier is that cute little number 6. So that is leaving, here we are, number 7. Yeah, here. We'll match that up with another one of our celebrity plants here. Actor Juliana Margulies is number 7. Leaving our very own Blanca Serrano. Here she is with this extremely cute photo, number 8. I don't know how you can't miss who that is, but there she is. Blanca is matched up with baby photo number 8. So hopefully you can all kind of see those matches there and compare it with what you guessed. And
so Lee is saying she got it all. Lee Gibson.
Why am I not?
Got them all right.
Lee got them all right. Okay, who else? Let's keep. So anybody else got all 3 right? Oh,
Stephanie only got me.
Got 3.
Got 4.
Anybody else have maybe 3 or higher number of guesses? Right? Melanie?
Nicole McMurray. No, sorry. Someone got 4. Moving so fast.
Okay, so Melanie, I see your hand up. How many did you get right?
She got 4.
Melanie got 4. Oh, sorry.
Stephanie Woolridge got all the staff ones right, but not the celebrities.
Okay, so how many is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Stephanie got 5. Lee got all 8, but she's feeling guilty because she was one of the 8. But still, that's pretty good. Anybody else? Are those the highest numbers? Because it feels like then that could be our 3 winners. But if we have another one, we could have a little face-off. It feels like that's it. Is there anybody else who got a high number right? So
that's on the chat, Sydney. I don't see anyone else.
Okay, so I have to make sure I get these names right. Melanie, and I know Stephanie, I know Lee. So Melanie, just make sure you and I connect afterwards. If you could send me an email, and then we would. Those are, I would say, our coffee card winners would be Melanie, Stephanie, and Lee. Thank you. Oh, and what are you posting there, Blanca?
Oh yes, I have posted there an activity guide for National Child Day. That's PHAC on PHAC's website. So for those of you that might be interested in celebrations or activities in your communities, it has like a really, coloring page and different activities that might be of interest. And I'm also posting a child-friendly UN convention. So it's in child-friendly language for your interest as well. There's, I believe, a little bit over 50 articles there on that outlines the rights of our children.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, I think this is bringing our time together to a close today. So on behalf of the Ontario Network of CAPC and CPNP projects, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. Thank you to our presenter, Nicole. I believe she had to step away a little while ago. And to all 5 of our project panelists. It was really great to hear your stories. And to those who submitted photos for the contest, and for those who made guesses today. Yeah, thank you. And maybe I'll hand it over to you, Blanca, for taking us out.
Thanks, Sydney. Thanks, everyone, for joining this celebration this year. As I said, a special year because it's also CAPC's 30th anniversary. And just to, once again, thank you all for all the work that you do, your commitment and dedication. There wouldn't be a program without you. And we really, truly appreciate the impact that you have in your communities, despite many, many challenges. And I definitely need to thank Sydney so much for all your support and always, being just ready to go with all kinds of ideas and celebrations that we come up with. So thank you, Sydney. And hope to stay connected. Remember to join all our network activities, and hope to see you there. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of the day and hope to run into you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.